And the president-elect hasn't taken office, but he's busy enough. Yesterday, appointing a new communications team, and they were immediately pressed to explain their boss's remarks about boosting America's nuclear arsenal. Well, today, he hit the golf course with Tiger Woods. He's been very busy. Mr. Trump promising to do a lot in his first 100 days, like repealing the Affordable Care Act, reworking trade deals, securing funding for a border wall, and imposing term limits on Congress, and much, much more. So here's Joe Trippi, former Howard Dean campaign manager and Fox News contributor, along with Scott Jennings, former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Welcome to you, gentlemen. All right, we have a lot to talk about. Joe, I want to start with you. President-elect Trump's latest tweet obviously causing some waves about the strengthening our nuclear capabilities. But I want to ask you about the big picture, his first 100 days, repealing Obamacare, reworking those trade deals, building the wall, and, of course, his promise to begin the very fast, I think he used the word very 3 times, removal of more than 2 million criminal illegal immigrants in his first hour of being in office. So how realistic is all of this, Joe?
It's as realistic as his ability to keep the Republicans in the Senate, for the most part, aligned with his agenda. Because, first of all, the first 100 days are critical. It is the period where he's going to be at his strongest to get things done. The first term and the first 2 years of the first term are, but the first 100 days setting that agenda. But the problem for him is, can he hold McCain on an issue? Can he hold Rubio on his immigration policy? It's about holding, because there's only a couple of vote margin for Republicans in the U.S. Senate. Democrats don't have really the possibility. They can delay things, but stopping them, that's going to happen because he loses 2 or 3 votes. And a lot of these controversial things he wants to get done could lose him a Collins in Maine, or a McCain from Arizona, or a Lindsey Graham, for instance. So, can he hold it together? If he can't, he's going to be able to get most of his agenda, most of that 100 days. It may get protests out there, but Democrats are going to be tough to stop it.
And, Scott, when we look back at what President Obama's first 100-day plans included in his first run, there were also some big-ticket items to get to, like the economic stimulus package. In February of 2009, he presented plans for more troops in Afghanistan. Now, these plans and promises are usually pretty big. How do you think Trump stack up?
Well, he does have a lot of big goals, and the American people in the election results rejected the concept of incrementalism. The American people for the last 6 years have seen the policy movement in this country grind to a halt under divided government, so they unified government under Republican control, and they want Trump to move his agenda. On top of the policy issues that he's fighting for, which are big and complex, he also has a government to build. And so the United States Senate, in addition to moving things like Obamacare repeal, has to spend a lot of time on confirming cabinet secretaries and, the biggie, confirming a Supreme Court justice. So if he gets some of the big executive action things done that he can do on day one, he gets the beginning of movement on passing legislation that he wants to pass, and he starts to build a government and confirm a Supreme Court justice, that would be a huge 100 days, and I think the people would feel satisfied that we're no longer at business as usual in Washington.
Right. And Joe, Mr. Trump has moved at a pretty good pace to select his people, including getting his communications team in place. So I want to ask you, what do you make of his picks?
Look, a lot of them are going to be controversial. They're going to have, hearings. The ones particularly that need Senate confirmation, I think. But I think the most of them are going to get through. Again, it's his ability to hold Republicans in the Senate. The House Republicans have a big enough majority that he can lose 10, 20 members from the Republican side and still have the House pass his agenda. The critical thing is, I actually think it's Senators McCain, Graham, some of Collins in Maine are going to be critical to him, much more critical than his loyalists in the Senate. Because if he loses some of them, or Rubio, again, on his immigration, or some of his, or the infrastructure spending, in any of these things, if he loses 2 or 3 Republican votes, he's not going to get that part of his agenda, won't get passed. So, and his loyalists are going to be with him on everything. So the people he has to pay the most attention to tend to be the people he's been, in a lot of ways, the meanest to in terms of his tweets and things. So it's going to be interesting if he can hold that all together.
Right, and that's what we're saying. The communications team that's in place now, getting in place, is going to be very busy in the days to come. So I need to leave it there. Joe Trippi and Scott Jennings, thank you both so much for being here today.